Three, two, one.
We'd like to welcome you to another edition of GrokTALK, brought to you by New Hampshire's leading conservative blog site, GrokTALK.com. We are your feared, extremist, right-wing, hard-charging, gun-toting, opinionated, outspoken, rabble-rousing, letter-writing, radio microphone stomping conservatives and rational libertarians. So get ready for more news and opinion you could only get from GrokTALK.com.
GrokTALK.
This is GrokTALK! Go! Brought to you by GrokTALK.com and the Coalition of New Hampshire Taxpayers. We are on iHeartRadio, Spreaker, Stitcher, iTunes, and TuneIn. You can check us out on Facebook and Twitter, YouTube, Ustream, and of course at patreon.com, patreon.com/GrokTALK. Make a donation to support the program. Governor Pataki is expected at 10:35-ish. He has a call before he comes up to talk to us. I don't know if he's here yet, obviously, because I'm in the studio and they're outside someplace, but we are expecting them to arrive shortly. In the meantime, gentlemen, I open the floor to you. Talk about what we just talked about. Anything else you want to squeeze in before he arrives? Wow, wait. Hey, let's start over. Go.
So, along with all this dumbing down of the education system and charging us more and more for it, we now have, of course, and I was trying to find the cartoon/poster of it, our vice president saying, that we need 4 years of free community college in order for the kids to be properly prepared. Heck, they used to be able to leave high school at 16 and be able to go out and get a darn good career. And at 18 and be ready for university. Now, they're not ready for life unless we give them 4 more years paid for by the taxpayer, because guess what? The 10 years or so, 12 years they did already 13. Didn't teach them anything.
13, maybe 14 if they do pre-K.
Well, what we found is that 40% of all high school students going on to higher education must take remedial classes, which basically says the high schools suck, period.
Well, I can tell you, I don't know if your kids ever had to take everyday math, but my kids had to take everyday math, and then they would get into middle school, and they would have to do real math. And, of course, having absolutely no foundation upon which to do real math when they got to high school, they're already behind. So they go all through high school with this handicap they were given because the district said, we got to do everyday math. And now, of course, everyday math was horrible. And, and then they get into, Jake's good at math. Zach, they're both pretty smart, but, they ended up taking a couple of days in the summer, kind of a refresher for math to really get them back to speed up on what real math's going to be like in college. And that's not unusual. It really isn't.
My experience with my kids is that my youngest was having a lot of problem. And in first grade, at the end of the first grade in public school, we were told he will never learn to read, period. We immediately said, no, we're not going to do this. We transferred him and his brother into a small Christian school. Mm-hmm. And the teacher that happened to be at our church took him under her wing. And by the end of the second grade, he was reading above a third grade level. So it wasn't a case where, as the public school system said, he can't learn to read. It's just they weren't very good at it. Now, the teacher was decent. My eldest had the teacher, same teacher, and he did very, very well. But I do know that after the 3 years that they were there at the private school, then they went back to the public schools. They were bored for 2 years. They had already covered all this stuff. I wrote earlier this week, it's like me going to Boston University and some of my high school buddies that had gone to UMass Amherst in organic chemistry, which is if you're pre-med or going into biology or chemistry, you have to take this class. A lot of engineering students had to take this class. And at BU, it was a weed-out class. Its whole purpose was to go so fast to weed out those people who were either incapable or not determined enough to make it through. Now, I ended up with a B. I was damn glad to get that. You had to work hard, and I'm not the brightest bulb in the box, but I'm far from being the dimmest either. And I couldn't believe it that after the first semester we did 16 chapters, UMass had only done 8. And I'm going, oh my God, I could have gotten a 4.0 out of this if I had been able to go at that pace. So
Well, you know, if you
again,
have a little desire and even a modicum of intellectual agility, you can determine yourself right through just about anything if you
Yes.
really want to. So, I mean, that's what my kids have intellectual agility. What they lacked was a good, I couldn't afford to send them to private school. I would have loved that. But, yeah, I mean, it is a dumbing down situation, and it's getting worse. And Common Core, of course, is the dumbest of them yet. And, now it's all, a train's going this way at 45 miles an hour and a car's going this way at 75 miles an hour. How do you feel about gay marriage? I mean, it really has absolutely nothing to do with, and that's math. That's math, okay?
Well, the social justice warriors have to interject all of that stuff into every little piece of the curriculum. And that goes to what this is going about. And then they wonder why people are saying, we're going to homeschool our kids. Because they're tired of the indoctrination. And I don't care what the educational system says. You read the books, you see I see this all over the internet all the time with this kind of crap all over it. That's not what our schools were when we were in school, Steve and Mike.
No.
They taught us reading, writing, and arithmetic. They got to the basics. They taught the subjects. As I've been saying for years, I'm going to be employed forever for as long as I want to work because these nitwits coming out of school can't make... I still run into people where you do that old joke at the convenience store. They see the bills that you hold out. They ring it up. They expect the cash register to tell them how much change to go. And at the last moment, you go, "Oh, let me give this to you instead." And you see them going trying to make the change.
It's a bountiful situation for quick change artists. That's what it is. So, we used to have one who
change artists.
They exist. We used to have one that came into the Papagenos in South Nashua at least once a month, and I knew who he was, and he would come and order something, and then he would start trying to switch the bills around, and I'd just walk up and go, "Hey, how you doing?" And he would just hand me the bill, and I would give him his change, and he would leave. We had an understanding, and my managers knew who he was. So, you just have to let people. I mean, there's people like that. They try to confuse you to make a couple bucks when you screw the change up. And that was 20 years ago.
I never
10, years ago.
wanted to cheat somebody, any of the cashiers. I just wanted to see the look of utter blankness on their face.
Or if you try and give them, let's say, I don't know, the bills, the amount's $16 and something, and you give them 21 and change, and they're totally dumbfounded that what you're looking for is to get a $5 bill back instead of a handful of garbage.
Yeah. And it's just one of those deals that I do worry about this country because some of the foundational characteristics that we were told that we had to have was a moral people. And I don't see morality. Morality comes from the inside. The progressives believe they can impose it upon you through the use of external laws. It depends on an informed government. And we see so many people, Mike, that have no idea what's going on in the world for politics and what's going on. It depends on an educated set of folks, and we just get worse and worse.
They expect, and it may be just the size of society, they expect that the society has an inertia, has a set of rules, and it's just going to keep on going, and they don't think they have to pay attention. And the problem is, as has been said enough times, you may not be interested in politics, but be assured that politics is interested in you.
Yeah,
you've got to pay attention.
I wonder if we're getting to the point where in the commercial realm, if you have a company that's been very, very successful, is very profitable, has been growing, then it gets sold. At what point did America really still, the analogy holds to America? And then once it's sold, the new owners say, we're going to basically steal it blind. We're going to pull all the capital out. We're not going to reinvest and everything else like that. And I think in the beginning, from the middle part of the 80s onward, especially in the 90s at the ball started rolling down, those same capitalists that were taking money out of the company, at some point you end up with just a husk of a company, and there's nothing there. Are we starting to see that with America? Because we get people like you and other folks who come and want to be Americans, not just to be here and work here like illegal aliens, but people who want to participate, and they left something because they knew it was wrong, and then they come here and now they're seeing it, this country that they thought was a beacon of light, now starting to become what they left, and you go, what the heck?
Yeah, well, it's getting bad when we start to think, maybe we could figure out how to live in the UK again. Because
seriously?
Mama actually said that a couple of days ago, and it's partly because older relatives are getting sick and dropping, so it's not just it's not just hey, we're sick of this place, but you're beginning to think, this place ain't so much better anymore. It's part of what.
Ask her about Londonistan.
Well, exactly. It's part of why we fight, Skip. We fight to prevent it from going that way, from being the worst of British socialism before Margaret Thatcher, or the worst of multiculturalism as it's become today. And if you end up with the confluence or the convergence of the two, you end up truly screwed. And by the way, that's where we are going. Multiculturalism plus socialism equals a totally immoral and bankrupt society.
Yeah, I look at this and go, there have been some good things happening for conservatism over the last couple of years, even given the Obama administration. And I think that I put up, or do I have it just bookmarked? There's been a couple of polls that have just come out where all of a sudden
Hi, Kimberly. Sorry.
Thanks a lot. I've been muted this whole time. I was trying to talk.
I'm sorry. He left the board and I wasn't looking at it, Kimberly.
I'm terribly sorry.
I am me on Facebook. Do you realize I'm still on the phone?
I feel oppressed.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Here you go.
Wait a minute. Turn her back on. Go ahead, Kimberly.
I was impressing. Sorry. By the way, the governor is around the corner stuck in traffic. If he doesn't make it in time, we'll reschedule, but they're almost here.
Well, can't we go into extra time here?
We could, yes. Go ahead.
I was going to say, you were just talking about, because I already lost my other thought because they come and go,
I understand.
I was going to say, you're talking about good things have happened to conservatism thanks to Obama. You're right, because guess what? It's because of Obama that I'm even involved in politics. And I think I'm a good thing. But
so do we.
That's exactly true, because I think because Obama is so extreme and because Democrats have become so extreme, they don't hide anymore, except for the ones in New Hampshire. They try to pretend like they're moderate, like Hassan. But because they're so extreme...
We have guests. Governor, if you could take the first one.
First seat, please, and then... All right.
Yeah,
Thanks, Kimberly. Hang on. We're just going to... You can keep talking while we set everybody up. They got stuck in traffic in Concord on Main Street. Imagine that.
Especially after they've made it more pedestrian-friendly, the traffic just doesn't work.
It's better than it was, and now it doesn't work right. So there we go.
What I was saying is that more people, I think, have become aware now than there were before. And you're seeing completely... I know a lot of people who were not involved in politics before who have become involved in politics, and they're not just involved in politics, they're actually... as far as watching and stuff, they're actually activists. So, yeah, Obama did a lot for the conservative movement, in my opinion.
Well, and I think that's at least part of why so many candidates are getting into the presidential race, and we've now been joined by Governor George Pataki. So, listen, we're also up against a break. Do you want to go into an extra time
We'll take the break real quick, and then we'll go. We'll run the segment as long as you guys can
Absolutely.
stick around.
Happy to be here.
All right, hang on a minute. We will take our break, and we will be right back.
This is the Coalition of New Hampshire Taxpayers. We're located at 8 North Main in Concord, New Hampshire. This is the repository for all things conservative and municipal. So if you have a problem in your town, your school, your budget committee, the right to know law, and now at the top of our list is voter fraud. You have a tip for us, some information for us, you want to join or help us out, cnht.org.
Hi, this is Rich Gerard, host of Gerard at Large in the Morning, the Manchester area's only locally owned, locally operated, focused, and interested, riveting radio show, heard live every Monday through Friday from 6 to 9 on 90.7 FM WLMW, New Hampshire Family Radio, and available 24/7 live or archived at GerardAtLarge.com. Be sure to tune in.
All right, there we go. We are back. GrokTALK brought to you by CNHT, the bloggers at Grok.com. Check us out on iHeart, Spreaker, Stitcher, iTunes, TuneIn, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Ustream. I'll get that all out of the way because we want to talk to the governor.
The small version, the large version.
The small version, the large version, yes. So, sorry you got stuck in Concord traffic. You can get used to that.
Hey, it made me feel at home in New York, except the only difference is we didn't have any protesters. I'm used to having protesters in here.
We can arrange
I'm
those
sure
too.
you could set that up for me.
We can make a call. Okay, and I got Kimberly on the line too. All right, so let's get to it. You are running for president?
There weren't enough candidates. I figured, what the heck. No, to be perfectly honest, never in my life have I seen a more dramatic need to change the direction and the nature of our government in Washington. It's not about managing. It's not about tinkering around the edges. It's about fundamentally changing and having sweeping reform. And I know I can do that. New York was in the same position when I ran for governor. I left it a completely different state. Sadly, it's regressed back to where it was before I took office. But I know I can change Washington. I know I can win this race if I get the nomination.
So Washington is pretty screwed up. One of the things, of course, obviously debt is a problem. Part of the debt problem is the bureaucracy problem. You know, we
Absolutely.
have all these czars. We have all, so what's your approach to
we
that?
have a government that's totally out of control in Washington. We have to dramatically reduce the size, the cost, the power, the intrusiveness. Just a few things. I would reduce the size of the federal government workforce by at least 15%. And people are going to say, well, how are you going to do that? When I left governor of New York, we had reduced the size of the state workforce by over 15%. I know I can do that. We have to break the stranglehold that the lobbyists and the special interests have on politics in Washington and give government back to the people. One of the things I do to do that is first of all, you serve one day in Congress, House or Senate. There's a lifetime ban on your ever being a lobbyist in Washington, D.C. Today there are over 400 former members of the House and Senate lobbying, peddling influence, representing the interest groups and not the people who sent them to Washington.
We have a few of those here.
Another thing I do is, they pass a law like Obamacare, ram it down our throats, say it's good for the American people, but they exempt themselves. Congress passes a law that applies to the American people. It has got to apply to every single member of Congress and their staffs as well. Reduce the size of the government, take away the special privileges and power of Congress and their staffs, give power back to the states and the people.
Okay, just to let you know, Governor, because I didn't get to it before, we are recording this, and we also live streaming it out through our listenership through
So I should probably
Grok.
try to sit up straighter. Is that what you're telling me?
No,
here,
no,
Skip?
just
all right.
sometimes I forget to tell people.
Wait, I'll suck in my stomach, sit up straight,
Just
smile.
be comfortable. But
We have
are
surveillance
recording.
laws in New Hampshire.
Yeah.
Nothing like warning me after the show's over. That's
You hit upon-
You sure you aren't a liberal here? With a trick like that?
You've hit upon one of my favorite hobby horses, which is the rise of the administrative state.
Absolutely.
Which is the end state of progressivism, otherwise known as just plain socialism. And in your own state, we have the New York Wage Labor Board, which just announced that only for one single industry, the fast food industry, they are now mandating a $15 an hour law,
Utterly
which was pushed by
absurd.
the SEIU, the
I
most
know.
socialist union ever.
Utterly absurd. And it's not for the fast food industry. It's only for fast food industry defined as franchisors with more than 30. So you can have a Dunkin' Donuts in Concord, New Hampshire, next to a Joe's Coffee Shop, and at Dunkin' Donuts, they're making $15. At Joe's, they're making $9, and state workers are making $8. This is stupid. It is typical of the inanity of the liberal policy. And you know what it's all about, and I don't mean to go on a rant here, but
we do it all the time.
What the left does is pass things not so that they're going to improve the lives of the working poor or low-income Americans, but so they can pat themselves on the back and say, look how compassionate I am, look how caring I am. But they don't look at the economic consequences in the real world of what they do. And that's why when I took office in New York, after 20 years of liberal big government, 1 in 11 of every man, woman, and child in the state of New York was on welfare when I took office. Think about that. They had so much compassion for the poor, they created more of them than any other state had. And what we do is we have so little care for the poor that we get them jobs, give them opportunity, allow them to live the American dream so there are fewer of them. That's why we have to win this election. One of many reasons.
One quick question. With this wage board, did that exist when you were governor?
It existed.
this.
It didn't do anything like
Could
this. I guarantee you. We could have never conceived of doing something like this.
What
But
purpose
now-
did it originally have, I guess, is the question.
What's that?
What purpose did it originally
You know,
have?
to be honest, when this was going through, my former chief of staff is now my business partner in the private sector, and I go, "What is this about? Where did this go? Was that there?" And I was a hands-on governor. I didn't even know that existed. To be perfectly honest.
And this is part of the problem, and we're asking everybody
It's
who
part of
comes
the
through
problem.
here. The administrative state has become so large that we're seeing
Absolutely.
at the federal level so many unelectable, unaccountable, and now protected bureaucrats making what used to be congressional law and acting under the aegis of the president. My question to you
Wait,
is...
can I interrupt? Forgive me. It's worse than making what Congress used to do. They're imposing regulations in areas that never impacted people before, that Congress wouldn't do. So it's far beyond what Congress would do.
So-
Forgive me here.
And that goes to my point, because I think that's one of the significant things about this election that is being underreported because of the intrusiveness. You know, it used to be limited government, large and expansive civil
Correct.
society, and then the individuals. And we see progressives have been pushed this further and further. And I'm going to be honest with you, I don't see a heck of a lot of Republican pushback on this. And
I
I'll
agree.
say
I agree.
you had the chance to kill off
I-
this
and I
board,
did.
and you didn't.
Well, I didn't know. I got rid of a lot of agencies, but Skip, I reduced the size of the workforce by over 25,000 workers, over 15%, while increasing the state police and everything involved in public safety. I reduced the number of agencies and authorities, and I created an office to go through regulations, and we repealed or reformed over 3,000 different regulations. And by the way, those bureaucrats in New York, they could not enact one regulation without going through my budget office. We stopped them.
Okay. How would you handle the federal government? Squeezing down the population
Absolutely.
of federal employees is one thing. But how do you get them out of creating all these new regulations
You don't
for
let them.
us?
You do what I did. And you pass, and I did it by executive order. And by the way, we're going to suspend all Obama. We're going to repeal all Obama's
The Dan Pfeiffer executive
We're going
one?
to get rid of all his executive orders.
And you know what I mean by that.
No, I don't know what you
Oh,
mean by
Dan
that.
Pfeiffer, Obama's political assistant, said, we basically erased George W. Bush by issuing executive order after executive order after executive order, so nothing he did would ever be there and replace it. I'm looking for a presidential candidate that on day one signs that and says all regulations...
Day one.
Okay,
Day one.
there you
Skip,
go. There's
we
a
are
promise.
we are going to eliminate every one of Obama's executive orders. What we are going to do is create a group that's going to take a look and go through his executive orders, and we're going to do three things. I assume a great many of them were just going to be gone. They're repealed. Some of them that are appropriate and can be done through executive authority, we will reenact. Those that are appropriate but should have been enacted by the rule of law through Congress, we will send to Congress and urge them to enact. Period.
Okay.
That's simple.
Second half of that, though.
Right.
We've seen these massive laws coming through, 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 pages. Would you promise to say, I will veto any bill, regardless of what it is, unless it's in a national emergency, and we're looking at Iran, North Korea, China, and all that kind of deal. I will veto any bill larger than 10 pages. And Congress, you had better finally start and stand up and actually say exactly to the tiniest detail, no more, the secretary shall, and make us allow us to do it. You tell us what to do to faithfully execute those laws. Are you willing to diminish the power of the presidency to put Congress back where it should be?
There are 3 or 4 questions. Will I guarantee I'll veto anything longer than 10 pages? No. and I'm going to give you the answer you don't want to hear,
Okay.
because if I want
That's fair.
I want to be the president of the United States, and if it takes 11 pages to do it in an intelligible way that the public can understand, then I'm not going to veto that bill. Will I continue to support executive power being taken from Congress? No. We will give that power back to Congress, but most importantly, we will give power back to the people and the states. And I will have an executive order, as I did as governor, saying that these agencies, these authorities, these czars, to the extent we don't eliminate them, cannot issue regulations without going through our board that will do a cost-benefit analysis and have to sign off on whether or not that is in the public interest and whether or not it's within the authority of the executive branch.
Okay.
That's fair enough, man.
Yes.
So in terms of eliminating agencies, you can strangle them pretty well with executive orders, but the next president could undo that, as has been observed. Ideally, what you want is to encourage Congress to enact a law repealing the very existence of the agency.
That's
because, as Ronald Reagan said, and as the Republicans in Congress are demonstrating this week, the nearest thing to eternal life is a government program.
Right.
Welcome to The Walking Dead. The Ex-Im Bank is back.
Well, it's not back yet, and as of June 30th, it's gone.
Yeah, but now they're trying to do
Well,
an
they're
end
trying,
round
of course.
where not Harry Reid, but Mitch McConnell had promised a lot of people. There was the Ted Cruz calling out of McConnell as a liar on the floor of the Senate, saying, "You promised me and 54 other senators you would not bring this up for a vote, and now look at what you're doing." I mean, and we write and believe from a NHGOP platform perspective, the U.S. Constitution, and especially the New Hampshire Constitution. And I'm tired, and there's a big group of people who are now supporting one of your rivals, Donald Trump, because they are so upset with the Republican Party for saying one thing and then doing another.
I totally understand.
And we go after people who refuse to do that. But how do you get such a bloated administration and a lackluster Congress to say, not only will we stop trying to subvert the black and white of the law, but we will live within the spirit of the law as seen by our founders? And I think that's a lot of our problem, that we've just totally abandoned that.
I completely agree with that. And I can't tell you how every member of Congress is going to conclude in their hearts that they should live by those tenets, but with the right leadership, you can completely change not just the letter of the law, but the culture of government. It takes time, and what you're saying, though, I think is extremely important, because people run saying they're going to do one thing, and then they do if they don't do the exact opposite, they don't do what they say they were going to do. And I'm proud of my record as governor, because I ran saying we were going to have the death penalty and reduce violent crime, and we went from the most dangerous state in America, which people can't believe today, to the fourth safest state in America. I said we were going to replace
I think New Hampshire's a little bit ahead of you
I know.
on that.
Just a little. New Hampshire, Iowa, and Utah. Those are the only ones. New York was fourth, although we're going to backslide with the liberals running things now, leftists running things now. But then I said we were going to replace welfare with opportunity and require the able-bodied to work. When I left, we had over 1 million fewer people on welfare than when I took office. No state in America has been transformed like that. And I said we were going to cut taxes. We were going to cut taxes across the board. When I left, we had cut taxes by $143 billion with a B dollars, more than the other 49 states combined, and taken $5 billion in deficits and turned it into $4 billion in surplus. I ran on those three things: tough on crime, replace welfare with opportunity, taxes across the board. I did those in the bluest state with a state legislature, a state assembly that had 103 Democrats and 47 Republicans. I tell you, I'm going to do something in Washington, I will do it.
All right, we're going to take a really short break. We're going to come back and do another 15 minutes, if you guys are all set with that. And stay tuned. This is GrokTALK. We'll be right back.
This is the Coalition of New Hampshire Taxpayers. We're located at 8 North Main in Concord, New Hampshire. This is the repository for all things conservative and municipal. So if you have a problem in your town, your school, your budget committee, the right to know law, and now at the top of our list is voter fraud. You have a tip for us, some information for us, you want to join or help us out, cnht.org.
Hi, this is Rich Gerard, host of Gerard at Large in the Morning, the Manchester area's only locally owned, locally operated, focused, and interested riveting radio show, heard live every Monday through Friday from 6 to 9 on 90.7 FM WLMW, New Hampshire Family Radio, and available 24/7 live or archived at GerardAtLarge.com. Be sure to tune in.
All right, the governor cannot stick around. He's got a lunch, or you've got things to do. You're running for president. So we're going to continue this conversation another time, but we wanted to give you a chance to say goodbye, let people know how to get in contact with you.
Yeah, I'll tell you, thanks for fighting the fight. Thanks for having me on. I'm sorry we couldn't get into national security. I went off on a rant about the Iranian deal the other day, and another rant about how our Marines can't wear their uniforms, recruiting. This is and not just an insult. It is an embarrassment to our country. They should put on their uniforms and put on their guns at the same time. I wish we could get into security. You can get a hold of me, Alicia.
We know her well.
The website, Twitter feed, GeorgePataki.com, and at Governor Pataki.
All right.
All right. Well, we've got lots more questions. If you can make it, time
I've got
for
a lot
another
more
round.
answers.
That sounds like a better deal.
Yeah. Thanks so much. Keep fighting the fight. Good to be with you.
All right. Thanks for coming in.
Take care.
you.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right. Well, okay. We're not going to run long. Thank you, sir. Have a good afternoon. Enjoy your campaigning.
Grok TV.